Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp, awards columnist with the Los Angeles Times. Golden Globe nominations this morning, SAG nominations yesterday morning. A lot of nominations. Joining me, Steve Zajic, movie writer, to kind of hash it out, and let's see where we are heading about a month away from Oscar nominations.
Yeah, it's interesting today. I don't think we learned a ton that's new. I think what happened was we got confirmation of some existing contenders, particularly Boyhood, Richard Linklater's epic, coming-of-age epic, Birdman, the Alejandro Iñárritu meta story about a dark comedy about an actor trying to mount a play. Selma, a film that, I think a lot of people thought was a contender, Ava DuVernay's story about Martin Luther King and the Selma civil rights marches of 1965, did not get any SAG Awards nominations yesterday, but I think a lot of us suspected that was just because, they got the screeners out pretty late. Yeah. Movie's coming out Christmas Day. She just wrapped it, or just locked it, rather. So that movie got a lot of nominations. And the fourth one that I think kind of solidified its candidacy was The Imitation Game, Alan Turing period World War II story starring Benedict Cumberbatch. So I think we learned that those movies are contenders. I think the big surprise to me, and a movie that maybe was on the bubble and now is less so, is Angelina Jolie's second directorial effort on Broken, based on Laura Hillenbrand's best-selling book. Jolie, beloved by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association that picks the Globes. They voted for The Tourist, or her in The Tourist, and The Tourist itself didn't pick her for anything and didn't pick the movie for anything. Clint Eastwood's American Sniper, another movie that got nothing, had some buzz coming in. So those were the things that stood out to me. I don't know if you feel that there were surprises, or
we seem to be going into something of a little bit of a sea change, with the HFPA, and I'm not sure at the bottom line I really like it, because I used to love to make fun of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. If they're not going to do any kind of wacky, weird stuff, like what's the point? It's just going to be another award show.
Right.
I mean, where is the Tourist nominations? Where is the best musical for equivalent of Burlesque, Maybe we didn't have a Burlesque this year. I don't know. But it is weird that, kind of going into today, I kind of thought Angelina Jolie, director, her movie Unbroken for picture. I thought Angelina Jolie
for Maleficent.
For Maleficent.
Yeah, she got nothing.
There's no Angelina Jolie, which is crazy. They're not going for stars like they used to. They're going more for critically acclaimed performances.
Absolutely. And it's funny, the lead I just wrote for the story I'm doing tomorrow, you might have had a similar one, was they usually go for the outliers and the outlandish, and this year they went for the solidly mainstream. And I think that's in part, as you said, why we're kind of this is just another award show. The fact that they do choose comedies is always going, and give you the kind of double slots on lead acting and picture, does kind of open the field a little bit and gets people in there you never would have gotten. One that kind of just stood out to me, which is funny because she's going to win, but not for the movie, or not for the second movie. Julianne Moore, obviously a shoe-in or close to it, or front runner for Still Alice, but she got nominated for Maps to the Stars because they needed someone in the comedy category.
That's a comedy for the Golden Globes. It's Maps to the Stars, which I got to tell you is not a funny movie at all. Not enough funny movie. Pride.
But it's a satire. It's a satire about the stars.
It's a bad satire. Yeah. But it feels like it was written about 25 years ago, which
it was.
It was, and they never updated it.
Right. But you get those kind of dark horses in there that'll never get Oscar traction. But you're right. Patch Adams is another one. If you go back a bit, joins Burlesque on the Tourist on the best comedy. So I agree with you on that. But I think, in terms of establishing some movies or giving some movies momentum, let's talk about someone who I think it's not an outlandish choice, but one who maybe was on the bubble 48 hours ago, now thanks to SAG and the Globes is not. Jennifer Aniston for Cake. This is a movie no one's seen. She plays this chronic pain sufferer. It's sort of a black comedy involving suicide. I talked to Aniston.
Another comedy.
Comedy. I talked to Aniston earlier, and she said, no one can believe what's going on now. She could barely believe it. She got a SAG nomination. The Globes, I think, does create some momentum. The perception that this is a serious contender, now the financiers distributing it can advertise off of that. So I think in that regard, it does have some value. But you're right, it's much less of a sort of circus than it is just another award show.
Yeah, there are two. She came out really ahead on SAG and Globes. The other guy, the actor who came out ahead, was Jake Gyllenhaal, who scored both a SAG and a Globe nomination for Nightcrawler. And there was always kind of, the lead actor field, crazy competitive as it always is. This year, maybe even more so. But here's a guy who's gotten in for both SAG and Globes, was kind of for a performance that very unsettling, this kind of unhinged cameraman prowling the freeways looking for the bleeding. And it was always kind of think, well, this is too weird, too creepy for the Academy to acknowledge. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a great performance. So, and this definitely gives him a little traction heading into the nominations.
Absolutely, and it's funny when you got the SAG. Obviously, the guild, a guild like that does overlap to a fair degree with the Academy. I thought, well, that's a real step. I thought today, again with Globes, Nightcrawler, which I think is really a comedy, or at least you know, it's not Neighbors, but it's still a comedy. I think that really does kind of fall into the Globes. Hey, we'd like to have a star here. I don't know if I'd read that much into it, but you're right. It does kind of shake up a race that we thought was pretty much well established. You know, there's some people who we thought might be making a run at that. You know, Bradley Cooper, an American Sniper.
Bradley Cooper, pretty big star
That they could have gone with. Yeah, that's right. And Oscar Isaac in A Most Dangerous, Most Violent Year. Probably a little bit more marginal, but a critically beloved performance. Maybe it's a movie people didn't see yet. That one might have gotten the 5th slot, but you have a few people who I think could have gotten it. Now it's looking more and more like Gyllenhaal is going to get it. Lead actress is interesting too, because I think you have these 3 performers who are, you know, certainly going to be nominated. Reese Witherspoon, Moore, as we mentioned, Felicity Jones for The Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking movie. Those last 2 slots, those seem very up in the air. We've got a couple of names kind of floating around over the last 48 hours.
Rosamund Pike a lot. I think for sure will get in for Gone Girl.
Amy Adams for Big Eyes.
And then you don't know that 5th slot, because I don't sense a huge amount of support for that movie, both from the Academy and even from Weinstein Company. I'm a member of LA Film Critics. They didn't send out a screener of Big Eyes. They haven't set up as many screenings of the movie.
You think that's because they're focused on Imitation Game and their other movies?
Yeah, yeah. St. Vincent
getting in there
showed
too.
Up today.
Yeah, which we knew it would. So who would you say gets that 5th slot then on the actress side?
I mean, I'd still lean toward Adams, but I think Aniston, little momentum at least, and that's what these things do. At least those screeners are moving up on the stack for Academy members.
And, you know, in a similar vein, you know, director has been an interesting race, obviously, since the Academy went 5 years ago to the expanded 9 or 10 slots. We've seen director now become almost the true best picture, because you only have 5. I think we all kind of knew, and we've gotten confirmation with the Globes, that we were going to see Ava DuVernay in for Selma, Richard Linklater for Boyhood, and Iñárritu for Birdman. I think those last 2 slots have been a bit of a question. What we learned today is that, you know, Foxcatcher Bennett Miller, his Foxcatcher, he got in. I don't know if he's necessarily going to get in for the Oscars, but it does maybe embolden Sony to put a little bit more muscle behind that campaign. Do you have a sense of the bottom half?
Yeah, that category is real. It could go any number of ways. I kind of like David Fincher getting in there, director's branch voting, and he's just, you know, he's a name, really well respected. And then you got the 5th slot. I don't know. I was kind of thinking Jolie before today.
Yeah.
But after today, this movie seems to be taking a little bit of a hit.
And, you know, just getting back to the unbroken of it all, I mean, this is someone who, not just the HFPA, but I think a lot of awards groups, a lot of Hollywood really wanted her in the mix, even though she's not on screen. But when you can get a director, you know, you think about from a broadcaster or award show producer's standpoint, where you can get, you know, and most people don't know directors. I mean, maybe Tarantino or a few others, but the average viewer does know them. They know Jolie. And so if you suddenly have Angelina Jolie as a director, you have Brad Pitt on the red carpet, his Fury not getting any attention today either. But if you suddenly start to get that, you really have this other kind of cast or sheen to the show. It's not getting that. And you have to wonder, Universal is releasing the film, who I already sense maybe, you know, they believed in it. They're doing these events, but, you know, they didn't really know what they had. They didn't know if they'd get the support. Not getting, you know, SAG and not getting Globes. You got to wonder if that movie is, I don't know if you pronounce it DOA, but it certainly seems to be ailing.
I mean, certainly the book and its success gives it a certain built-in audience. I think, especially with older moviegoers, we'll see how many younger moviegoers they're able to attract. But yeah, how interesting that, you know, in the history of the Academy, 4 women have been nominated for Best Director. And we kind of assumed this year it was going to be Jolie was going to join the group as the 5th. It's not going to be her. It's going to be Ava DuVernay.
Yeah. Well, after Selma screened at AFI, I think there was a feeling that could happen. If you had to, I know we're a little bit out as far as Golden Globe wins, but if you had to predict on both the drama and comedy side, based on the nominations we saw today, Boyhood, Birdman would seem like the natural split. Obviously, one comedy, one drama. Would that be? But Selma, of course, a factor as well. How would you kind of handicap it from this standpoint?
I do kind of like the Boyhood Birdman split in those. Although with the HFPA, it could go either way. I really like Boyhood to continue on and win Best Picture, and we'll see how that happens. And we have a lot more time to talk about it. We'll have a lot more coverage of awards. So continue visiting latimes.com. I'm sure you and I might be back again
Hope so.
for in the new year. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.